Welcome to Women in Web3, everyone. Today we have someone I have been a fangirl of for a long time. I feel like since I started my foray into Web3. Jaime Schmidt from BFF. Jaime, welcome. Do you want to give your own introduction? I like to give one that is the laundry list of all of your greatest achievements because I feel like people don't give themselves enough credit. But I like to hear from them too. How do you describe yourself and what you're doing in the space?
Thank you, Carly, and thanks for having me. This is going to be fun. Like you said, the co-founder of BFF. I think that's probably what most people know me for today. But before that, I was a Web2 entrepreneur. I started the brand Schmidt's Naturals. It's a brand of personal care products that I started in my kitchen back in 2010. Started as an artist, maker, living in this, the totally creative Portland scene, and never anticipated growing the brand into what it had become. And fast forward 7 years, and the company was acquired by Unilever. At that point, I had, of course, scaled beyond my kitchen, was running a factory, and had distribution across 30 countries and 30,000 retailers. My goal there was really to bring natural products mainstream. So I had been making, these handmade deodorants, and stores like Target, Costco, Walmart became interested in understanding, the benefits of naturals. And so timing was ripe. It was perfect. I had a lot of luck on my side, but also tons of hard work, and was able to, disrupt an industry. And then started to see the same potential here with Web3. After the acquisition, I did write a book about my experience, starting as an artist and scaling to, this full-fledged sort of successful entrepreneur, and what it takes and everything I learned along the way, all the mistakes made. And then start thinking, as NFTs got into my thinking, what can I do that's, to have similar impact? And started BFF with my co-founder Brit Morin. Many of you know her as the founder of Brit & Co. She's had a lot of other successes. She's a well-known VC. So together we launched this, and there's lots has happened since. This was January of this year, and you said you were there, Carly, at the kickoff event.
I was. I got a BFF bracelet, and then I got it stolen. And then, because the community is just so cool, whoever wound up getting it down the line and saw that it was stolen messaged me on Twitter and wanted to get it back.
Aww,
and so I got it back.
Yeah, so then you got it back. Oh man.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the worst stories. But I mean, yours turned out great. But it's like, yeah, that's heartbreaking, especially when it's like, someone's first NFT and they're like super, kind of treading cautiously into this new space, and taking comfort in like this community like BFF. Like, okay, these people are gonna hold my hands through this. Then all of a sudden, there goes my bracelet, like stolen from my wallet. Like, that sucks.
There's a lot of sentimental value that like I did not expect to have, and feelings towards that specific bracelet. But I think it was almost cool that it did happen to me, because I am constantly sharing in my newsletter and here like about the space so we can all learn together. And I was like, well, this is something that's worth learning so it doesn't happen to everyone else. And your team was just so great and gracious in helping report it and just do what you guys could. And so it's been really cool. I know you guys are huge advocates for building throughout the markets, despite what's going on in the world. You guys have been right there, whether it's been, social justice advocacy. I saw you guys stepping up. And then just growing, adding the UPFPs and the charms. How much, I'm curious, like before January, how long were you and Brit working on BFF and conceptualizing behind the scenes?
It came together quickly, like a lot of brands and projects in the space. I think, a lot of people saw the opportunity and they're like, I want to act fast on this. But, having been entrepreneurs before, we knew that we couldn't be too reckless, and we had to have certain things in place before we jumped in. But at the same time, timing was ripe, and we thought, if we're going to do this, we have to do it now. January made sense, like a fresh new year. So we, several months, like Brit had been scheming it before she brought me in. This was something that had been her thinking, and sort of more on a more casual basis. And then when we talked, we just started going down the rabbit hole of like what it could really look like. And then she invited me to be her business partner. And that's when we just went all in. And, we both had other things going on in our lives. She's running a couple of businesses, and I, had an investment fund also, and was working with entrepreneurs. And and other things. And so it's not like we were looking for something to like occupy our time, but we just saw the potential to just really have impact and to like just make it happen in that moment. And so I'm glad we did. There's so much that we've learned as we've gone, just like any other brand, in this space. Like you realize that sometimes, maybe you did move too quickly, and how do we compensate for that? And especially with changing market conditions, like what's our new, like, how do we stay true to our mission and our vision, but like what new steps do we take to get there, right? Given like a lot of things have changed.
Yeah, I see a huge through line for you is accessibility, like making your products back with Schmidt's, making them accessible to people at, different price points, the entry levels. That's I shop at the Targets and Costco's of the world. And it's kind of the same with BFF, like making Web3 accessible for, I was, as you can see my background, a creative, like knew nothing about tech. So I think that's really cool. How did you guys think about that onboarding piece and bringing in, I know a lot of big names and people that, different women and people look up to kind of be like, oh, well, if they're getting involved, maybe I'll get involved.
Yeah, that was definitely I think that was, one unique sort of position that we had is that we did have a lot of bigger names jumping on in support of what we were building. And not all of them, were deep in Web3. They didn't all know about NFTs, or they were new to it themselves. And they thought, this is a cool way for all of us to learn together. I can bring my community in, in a way that's like safe and trusted. And so it was just an awesome, time for some of these, as you say, like bigger names, some celebrities, some well-known VCs, some investors, entrepreneurs, to say, hey, like I want to be a part of this, and I want my following or my community to be a part of it too, and to potentially take advantage of some of these opportunities. And so we all just sort of jumped in together. We knew that the first event, that YouTube event was key for just covering the basics, right? Like, what is an NFT? Why do I care? What's some of this terminology that matters? And what are the real opportunities here? And so we had a number of people speak on that, and then the airdrop of the bracelets was sort of that big moment of, okay, we now have our first NFT in our wallets, but a lot of people didn't have wallets too, so that was a big part of it, like helping them actually set up their first crypto wallet and receive the NFT, and then everything that's happened since we've been building off of.
Yeah, and for people who are listening and maybe not aware of the airdrops and the bracelets, that was a huge investment on you and Brit's part, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and we went back and forth on that. Like, what is the impact here? What are the implications? What is the investment really look like? And so we decided to cover the cost of all the gas fees and the NFTs themselves. And but we knew that for people to like really jump in, like that was key, right? We wanted them to just receive it as like a sign of, gratitude for their interest, I suppose, and just our belief in their long-term involvement in what we were building. And it's so cool to see how many people are still around, like some like those original people who showed up at the event. They're still, some of our biggest, most engaged contributors in our Discord or on our Twitter or whatever it might be. And many had started with, zero knowledge or understanding, but just an interest and an excitement. And so we actually just wrapped up a survey. And one of the questions on there was, how much have you learned, on your sort of crypto journey? How much of that would you attribute to BFF? And, we were really proud of the responses that we saw there, though. So it was a validation, that what we're doing is working.
Definitely. How big is your current team? Because for people who don't know, if they follow BFF on Twitter, they'll see you're constantly putting out Twitter Spaces. You just launched all the different clubs. If you want to touch on some of them. So behind the scenes, how many of you are there? And how have you scaled that?
It's way smaller than you might think. We have, I think, about 5 full-timers right now. And then Brit and me, we're working full-time too, of course. But everybody's on payroll. We have health insurance that we're super proud of. And so we really thought if we're going to do this, we want to run it like a business. We want everybody to, feel fairly compensated and motivated and just really, committed to the long term. And that's a big step, like in a Web3 brand, is like, because I know a lot, projects don't have that luxury, but to potentially pay people or to offer benefits and things like health insurance. But, for us, like that was budgeted immediately. We're like, this money's going here. And like that, so that's been really key to us. But I think I lost your last question. Ask me that question again.
Honestly, I'm like, wait, what was I asking? Oh, I asked how many people were on the team, and then like in order to be able to scale it, and touched upon the different clubs that you guys just offered. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if you want to go over kind of all that BFF offers right now, and for the future. What are you guys building up to? Is BFF Con still in the works? I'm crossing my fingers. I hope so.
Thank you for asking. Every Web3 brand that launches has to, put out a suspected roadmap, right? Like, here's where we see ourselves going. These are the things you can look forward to. This is the, utility or the value that you'll get with, being a member. For us, it was, when we started, a big part of it, as you say, was this BFF Con, and that's something we're definitely still planning, but we want the timing to be right, of course. We had thought about doing it late this year, and then market conditions changed, and we want to make sure, we're doing it in the most, healthy sort of atmosphere and environment. And so that's certainly in our planning still. We have other events, though, that have been happening more in the interim. We just launched our Bring Your BFF to Crypto series, or Bring Your BFF to Web3 series, with MoonPay as a sponsor there. So that's been really cool. 5 cities we'll be hitting. So we're starting in Miami next week, probably by the time this podcast comes out. And then other cities around the country where people who are current members of BFF can bring one of their friends in, as a newbie. And we have a lot of activations, some very hands-on, some more education. And so that we're really excited about that. You mentioned our clubs. That's something that we've been working on for a while. We had called them, oh my gosh, before that okay, can you edit that out?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I had a brain fart.
That's okay, it happens.
We need a bloopers, podcast blooper. Anyway.
We do. That'd be great.
So yeah, you mentioned our clubs. That's something we've been scheming for a while. Our goal there was to bring together some of the sub communities within BFF who have specific interests, whether it's entrepreneurship, maybe it's coding, or some of the creatives and artists. And that's been really cool to see some of the friendships develop there. We have some pretty legit speakers that come in every week and talk to the different clubs. So that's one of the utilities that's built in with being a token owner. And then one thing we're also proud of too is our perk shop. I don't know if you remember that, but that was something we launched shortly after the U collection. And every NFT in that collection had certain perks associated with it. So whether it's physical goods or access to services or maybe discounts or time with one of our founding BFFs. And that's been ongoing, for many months. And we keep building on that. So adding more and more perks as we go. Sometimes it's something, as simple as access to an allow list from a partner community. Or maybe it's, a fun merch drop. So that's something that we think we've done in a really unique and exciting way. And we're going to continue to build on.
Yeah, I feel like you guys have touched upon so many different use cases for NFTs already. Like when people ask the question, what is this JPEG going to give me? With BFF, it's like, well, you can get access to events, or you can get access to YouTubes and these clubs that can help you build as a creative or an entrepreneur. Is there anything that you guys, like a crazy dream that you guys would love to apply it to down the line, or just any standout use case that you think is really the one that will stick around the most, like using it for ticketing or just community?
Yeah, and that's the magic question. I think that's the one that is very important for everybody to be thinking about that has, their own project or brand. And I do think it's important to note that there's a risk in doing too much, right? Like, we do have a lot of access and we have, different utility, but I think, what's really going to move the needle is like doing one or two of those things really, really well. And I think that's where a lot of these Web3, projects, brands, companies, whatever you call them, maybe missing the mark, because we all started out, we're so excited to do as much as we can. But just like a brand in Web2, like you need to know what you're offering and you want to like do it really well. And so that's in our thinking, and I am happy to say, as we evolve or turn the corner into year 2, our anniversary is coming up. BFF has an expanded, sort of more refined roadmap that we're going to be talking about, and the more I can't say too much right now, but a more specific, utility offering that we think is very unique and really useful.
That's awesome.
I'll share more. I'll come back on the pod.
Yes, for season 2, or this is kind of, I guess it'll be season 3. I guess we're in season 2 of Women in Web3 now. It's all kind of blended together.
Yeah.
But on the topic of doing too much, all the things, I want to shift away from BFF for a second and focus more on you and what else you're doing in the space. I know you have a fund, it's Color Capital, right? Is that still kind of in the Web3 space? And then I'd read about crypto packaged goods. Is that something you're still up to?
Yeah.
Tell us about those, and then also how you juggle it all.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, my fund Color, that was started after Schmidt's was acquired, and the original goal of that was to support other CPG brands, people building in the space that I thought were doing it in a unique way, in a non-traditional way. And so I never took funding. I bootstrapped my business, and so to become an investor was an interesting transition. And so I really, was jumping on certain opportunities where I thought, okay, maybe this company doesn't necessarily need funding, like they're positioned for bootstrapping, but they could do really well with somebody like me coming in with, just the right amount of capital and expertise and experience. But so that's where we started. And I started that with my husband and business partner, Chris Cantino. Just the two of us. We have no partners, no LPs. So we were able to decide what we invest in together. And then we also together had started, as you mentioned, crypto packaged goods. That evolved from what we were calling Club CPG in the Clubhouse days. Coming together and just talking about the consumer space with other entrepreneurs or people who are interested in building. And then we dropped the collection, Crypto Packaged Goods, early last year. Actually, late last year. Gosh, time flies. Which was the token opportunity to join this community. So buying an NFT, having access to this group of people that were working in the consumer space, but also those who were really interested in Web3. So at that time, it was, and still is, a super interesting and unique kind of coming together of two different interest groups. So we started that, I guess it was October of last year. And then we've since expanded on that and dropped a secondary collection that welcomed a few thousand more people in. So doing that. And how do I have time for it all? I think it's prioritizing always, but certainly I've found that making space for things that are non-work related are so key for me. Yesterday I spent half the day at a pickleball social in my neighborhood.
That is awesome.
Playing, tournaments with other women who are into pickleball and realizing okay, I'm falling behind on some things here and I'm probably gonna get back to a ton of emails, but it's worth it. And so just, making time for yourself, because that's the only way you're not going to burn out. And it helps that I've run a business before, and I know when something's urgent, how urgent is it? In your mind, everything's urgent as an entrepreneur. You're I got to do all of it right now.
Yes.
But it's realistically okay, what can we put off till tomorrow or maybe next week, next month? So just having the, ability to prioritize and manage your time.
I think that's such a good reminder for anyone who's, whether they're building in the space or just looking to get into the space, because it can be very easy to get carried away on Discord or NFT Twitter or whatever it may be until late hours of the night and forget to walk your dog or whatever it may be.
No, it's true. Not just entrepreneurs, you're right. Just even traders or people who are interested in, every opportunity, don't want to miss anything. And I think that's why it's key too, to find a couple, communities that are important to you, and knowing, when and how to access those updates. With BFF, for example, we send text messages to our community because not everybody's around all the time. And so I think that has worked well for us. It helps alleviate that sort of obsession over always being on.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
For people, I have a few more questions. For people who are looking to get into the space, to learn about it, besides following BFF, is there any one piece of advice or one question that you get all the time that you want to answer?
I think finding what resonates with you, because Web3 is so grand, right? It's not just NFTs and so it's just understanding, learning is everything, right? Doing your research, whether it's following people on Twitter, these days reading the news, there are articles, about what's happening with Web3. And so just finding what speaks to you on a personal level and sort of resonates with your goals and your interests, and then going a little bit deeper into that. And we try, at BFF to offer like a really diverse, deep dive into a lot of different areas, because we recognize that that's what it's going to take to really onboard people. And so you'll see, like with our Twitter spaces, we'll have very specific topics within Web3, and you'll see like different types of people, jumping into the different conversations, because that's the one thing that they're, specifically interested in. So just understand that it's not like a, general sort of one tiered, for lack of a better word, opportunity. It's like it's still multifaceted. You just find the thing that, works for you.
I love that. Yeah. And one of my last questions here is, what have you found about yourself in this space? Whether comparing like this journey to your journey with Schmidt's, or just anything, big or small.
I think that I'll like always be a newbie. Like
I feel that.
And I think but I think it's important to like recognize that, and it's not like a fault, it's an opportunity, right? It's like this, like I know that I'm new here, but I know how to learn, and I know, how to create something sustainable and do it in, in a way that's, professional and effective. And so I think it's, a lot of people like there might be this assumption that because you had success in Web 2, that's like all, automatically going to transfer to success in Web 3. And like that's not the case. There's a lot of learnings, that are valuable. And I think a lot of concepts that still apply, but no matter what you do, no matter it's Web 1, 2, 3, whatever, you're always going to have to learn something. And so just being realistic about that.
I love it. Jamie, is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, I am excited to share more about what's around the corner for BFF. It's always awkward when you like want to say something, like there's so much to say, but it's like the timing has to be right for so many reasons. And so, I do look forward to potentially revisiting all of you on the podcast here and going a little deeper when it's time.
Good. Well, I want to encourage people to follow you and BFF on Twitter so that they can get those announcements as soon as they come. Yes. We'll put it in the show notes, but if you want to spell it out for people, where's the best place for them to go and connect?
Yeah, BFF is my BFF on all platforms. I think, Instagram, Twitter, and what am I missing? I think LinkedIn, we're just BFF if you're a LinkedIner. But our website's great. We have tons of content. We actually launched a content studio recently, so we have a lot of great articles in there. So definitely check that out if you're one that prefers to read, at your own leisure. And then me, I'm just Jaime Schmidt. It's Jaime Schmidt. That's my handle.
Awesome. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to all you guys have coming down the road.
Thank you, Carly.